At the White House press briefing, where a major topic will be a comment that was made by White House aide Kelly Sadler. You may have not heard of her, but you probably heard of what she said now. She was reacting to Senator John McCain's opposition to President Trump's pick for CIA Director Gina Haspel, someone who McCain is opposed to. And when she said something that was intended to be a joke, she said, "He's dying anyway," dismissing his objections. The White House issued a response. They said, quote, "We respect Senator McCain's service to our nation, and he and his family are in our prayers during this difficult time." But many people are calling her out, including Senator McCain's daughter, Meghan.
Whatever you want to say in this kind of environment, the thing that surprises me most is, I was talking about this with you, Joy, that I don't understand what kind of environment you're working in when that would be acceptable, and then you can come to work the next day and still have a job. My father's legacy is going to be talked about for hundreds and hundreds of years. These people, nothing burgers.
Nothing.
Nobody's gonna remember you.
Former Vice President Joe Biden, who is a longtime friend of McCain's, was just visiting him in Arizona, slammed the aide's comments, saying, quote, "People have wondered when decency would hit rock bottom with this administration. It happened yesterday. John McCain is a genuine hero, a man of valor whose sacrifices for his country are immeasurable. As he fights for his life, he deserves better, so much better. Given this White House's trail of disrespect toward John and others, this staffer is not the exception to the rule. She is the epitome of it. Our children learn from our example. The lingering question is, whose example will it be? I am certain it will be John's." I want to bring in Caitlin Collins. She's our CNN White House reporter. The president has been silent on this, Caitlin, although considering his criticism of John McCain even recently, he may not be the best messenger to respond to this controversy anyway.
Well, that's the question here, Brianna. A lot of this stems from the top, so it would depend on who would be calling for her to be fired. But I am told that Kelly Sadler is at work today in her office, business as usual, sending her typical emails out to surrogates from the White House talking points, things of that matter. So it seems to be going along like it was any other day. Not that she made a comment that has caused a lot of blowback from people outside this White House. And so that is the question of where does it go from here? Certainly Sarah Sanders is going to be asked about this at this briefing, because in the White House's response, when they were reached out to get a comment on the fact that Sadler had made this remark, the White House didn't apologize, didn't deny the remark, but just simply said they were praying for McCain's family. So now the question is, what are they going to do about it, having this staffer here? And this is just another self-made crisis by this White House. This is something that in any other White House, this person would likely be fired within a matter of hours. But the question is this something that would get the president's attention? Of course, this is the president has also made disparaging remarks about Senator McCain before, certainly about his time when he was a prisoner of war, and saying he preferred people who did not get captured. So a lot of things do stem from the top, Brianna. That's a question here. What I'm told from people inside the White House is her comment isn't really the subject of much discussion behind closed doors today. The communication staff, which Sadler works on, typically meets every morning around 9 o'clock. Sometimes they cancel those meetings. This morning they canceled that meeting. So there was no discussion about that remark. That was the same meeting that she made this remark in a few days ago when they were discussing his opposition to Gina Haspel being the next CIA director nominee, Brianna. But now the White House is going to have to face questions on this and why they're keeping a staffer around who has made such a disparaging comment about someone who has cancer, who has served our country, and who currently is a lawmaker on Capitol Hill.
And we should mention Kelly Sadler did call Meghan McCain to apologize. We don't know the outcome of that call, but then Meghan McCain did, as you saw, as we all saw, react on The View. Something else that no doubt Sarah Sanders is going to be asked about, comments by Chief of Staff John Kelly. He's getting a lot of blowback for what he said during an NPR interview about undocumented immigrants. Let's listen to this.
Let me step back and tell you that the vast majority of the people that move illegally into the United States are not bad people. They're not criminals, they're not MS-13. But they're also not people that would easily assimilate into the United States. They're overwhelmingly rural people. In the countries they come from, 4th, 5th, 6th grade educations are kind of the norm. They're coming here for a reason, and I sympathize with the reason. But the laws are the laws.
It's going to be interesting, Caitlin, to see how Sarah Sanders responds to this, because while Kelly has gotten a lot of pushback for saying what he said. The president has actually been more extreme. I mean, at the beginning of those comments, you heard Kelly saying that most people who come are good people. We've heard the president say some people who come are good people, but Mexico isn't sending its best, it's sending rapists and criminals. How does she thread that needle?
Well, that's the question. Of course, John Kelly and the president largely see eye to eye on immigration. They disagree on a lot of issues. This is one where they seem to be in lockstep on. So these these likely will not be comments that get the president's attention, that cause him to say anything. Of course, we've reported extensively in the past that John Kelly is an immigration hardliner. He's said things like this before about who they're letting into the United States. He would be fine if it was a number between 0 and 1. Those are comments that John Kelly has publicly said. So that's not likely to be something that draws the president's ire. But another remark during that rare interview that John Kelly did, he's someone we rarely hear from, is when he said that he believed the Russia investigation was an embarrassment to President Trump. Now, President Trump has derided this investigation, been very critical of it, saying it's a witch hunt on multiple occasions. But John Kelly also made headlines during that interview with NPR when he said that the president was embarrassed of the Russia investigation and that it's hampering his ability to forge relationships with world leaders, saying that it's essentially an elephant in the room. Now, my colleague Jeff Zeleny caught up with John Kelly in the Rose Garden just a few minutes ago as the president was holding an event on drug prices. And John Kelly said that he corrected that remark about it being an embarrassment during that interview. He did not correct it, I should say, but he did later call it a distraction twice. Of course, he was essentially saying as much to my colleague Jeff Zeleny, saying it is a distraction, saying it's a witch hunt, which is an echo, of course, of what the president said. But he did seem, Brianna, to be trying to do some cleanup on that embarrassment remark. Of course, this is a president who sees embarrassment as a weakness and likely not a comment he would want his chief of staff making about his state of mind.
Indeed. All right, Caitlin Collins, thank you so much as we await the White House press briefing. Joining me now is CNN political commentator Ana Navarro. I want to talk to you about John McCain in just a moment, but first, let's talk about John Kelly's remarks, where he said that there's a good kind of immigrant and a bad kind. According to Kelly, the good kind speaks English, has at least a college education, can easily assimilate. The meaning of assimilate, of course, is something that is open to interpretation. I just wonder what you think about his remark, Anna.
Hurtful, unnecessary, frankly, un-American. Listen, John Kelly first talked about TPS and talked about policy, immigration policy, which I thought was very appropriate and a substantial discussion. These remarks are unnecessary and they are, they're particularly disturbing coming from somebody like John Kelly, who is an Irish Catholic from Boston, a city that was largely built by Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants, poor immigrants who came here, many of them poorly educated, who came here with what I guess he would describe as no skills or being unskilled, and who today are the city leaders. But more than that, let's remember, John Kelly is also a general. He has commanded men and women who were willing to do what Donald Trump wasn't willing to do. Sacrifice their lives, risk their lives in service of this country. And if you go to the military cemeteries or the military hospitals, you will find a lot of people named Rodriguez and Martinez, people whose parents, people whose ancestors, or people who themselves came here as immigrants, poorly educated, but who did assimilate in the most American of ways, being willing to serve this country.
I do want to ask you about John McCain. You worked with him on his 2008 presidential campaign. You heard Meghan McCain today responding to this White House aide, who a lot of people would have never even heard her name before this, Kelly Sadler, who said in dismissing John McCain's opposition to the president's CIA pick, said, well, he's dying anyways. What do you think? Do you agree with her? Do you think that Kelly Sadler should be fired? Or do you think that, considering what we've heard Donald Trump say about John McCain, that it just creates a very different situation here?
Look, of course, Kelly Sadler should be fired. And by the way, for anybody that wants to give Kelly Sadler their opinion on what she said, it's at Kelly Sadler 45 on Twitter. Look, in any other White House, she would be fired. She would be, at the very least, suspended from her job. because what she said is offensive, it's hurtful. There are so many Americans today who are facing their own mortality, who are facing down terminal illnesses, or who have loved ones who are. And look, you know, the John McCain I know doesn't give a damn about what Kelly Sadler says. This doesn't make a dent on him. But I can only think about how this makes people like Cindy McCain, like their 7 children feel, his 5 grandchildren, his 105-year-old mother, Roberta. And it's got to be incredibly hurtful to be dealing with the illness of somebody you love so much, and at the same time hear some kook on Fox Business, you know, take a shot at him about torture. And then hear this, you know, White House official whose salary we are all paying take a shot at a man who is facing his own mortality and who has been serving this country and sacrificing for this country since the age of 17. It is frankly immoral. It is absolutely deplorable. She should be fired. But how can she be fired when we have heard Donald Trump do the same, starting with the campaign? He has been mocking and attacking John McCain, an American hero, a war hero, who did what he was unable to do. While Donald Trump was dodging the draft, John McCain was tied up in Vietnam and getting tortured in Vietnam. And he has attacked John McCain before his illness and after his illness. This is not the first time that Meghan McCain gets a call apologizing. When is this White House going to stop apologizing for mocking a man who's facing a terminal illness? When?
I do want to ask you, Anna, about Sarah Palin, John McCain's former running mate, and NBC spoke with her because they wanted to know what she thought about a passage in McCain's memoir where he says that he regrets selecting her over Joe Lieberman, who was a Democrat turned independent at the time. Let's listen to this.
Did that hurt to hear you say you would rather choose Lieberman?
Well, I don't lie, so I'll tell you a bit. You know, I think I described it earlier as a gut punch, but again, you know, I'm going to choose to look back on the good times that we did have together, because, you know, a lot of that campaign really was actually fun for us personally and for our families. And, you know, I will never disparage someone who has served our country and made a lot of sacrifices as a vet now, and that's how I look at him, as someone who had served all those years, and I certainly appreciate that and many other aspects that I see, characteristics that I appreciate in Senator McCain.
That's a pretty classy reaction there, Anna. What did you think about it?
Look, I have the book right here. I am reading it. There is no such passage in this book where John McCain says that he regrets picking Sarah Palin. He says he regrets not having picked Joe Lieberman. Let's remember that Joe Lieberman and John McCain are and have been extremely close. They have worked together on policy for decades. They have, you know, they have a very special bond. And I think John wishes he had picked the man with whom he had this very special bond. But I can tell you from personal experience that anybody who's ever said anything remotely disparaging about Sarah Palin gets an earful from John McCain. I remember having done so once, and John McCain got as angry as I have ever seen him with me. Cindy McCain was there. Lindsey Graham was there. They will remember. So I think this is a big misunderstanding. I think it was a headline that came out in an outlet, maybe The Hill, saying that he regretted picking Sarah Palin. He did not say that. He said he wished he had picked his friend. Not because he didn't want Sarah Palin, but because of the special friendship with Joe Lieberman. Look, John McCain is this guy who's got this you know, old-fashioned sense of chivalry and loyalty. He is grateful. He is respectful for anybody that helped him, that worked with him, that was part of his team. And so, you know, can we just clarify that he does not say that in the book, that he regrets, you know, that he regrets picking Sarah Palin.
But that he regrets not picking his friend, which you feel certainly is an important distinction there.
I do, because I'm telling you, I faced his wrath once, in no uncertain terms, over Sarah Palin. This is a man who has never said anything disparaging about Sarah Palin and never allowed it said in his presence.
All right, Anna Navarro, thank you so much for being with us. Just moments from now, the White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders will be taking questions. We're going to bring that to you live.